we have an agenda?
We just had the
We were just sort of discussing that.
Right.
We were debating whether it should be capital arm with capital A, or lowercase arm.
You know, they owe me a new shirt.
A new thing, a new like backpack.
Anything from that, Bill? Otherwise, I'll feel rude about the rebranding opportunity.
What cross-distro stuff do we have? We could talk bootloaders all day, but that's maybe not.
I think I've got one item that might be of interest. So we have LSE large system extensions with atomics. How on earth do we get that working on glibc? So the problem is, typically one would use things like iFunks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But glibc is all intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone got any clever ideas how to...
What's the current level of support?
I don't think they are used yet in any binaries, are they? I don't think we've got any LSE builds.
I'm not aware of any.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but what I mean is, are there any patches implementing?
is there anything in
It's a
glibc?
long time issue. You compile glibc with march equal to armv8.1a, you get LSE construction.
Yeah, so you can make it that easy.
Right.
Just C flash check.
Switch in the compiler.
But you can't then run it if you don't have the LSE extension.
Can you tell us what LSE stands for?
Large system extensions. So the fancy atomics.
I'm thinking about it. So from a there's multiple distros. From a RHEL point of view,
Yeah.
we're living in the past.
Yeah.
With versions. No. The problem we have is I would love to solve this problem and backport and turn it on.
Yeah.
But the problem we have right now is that that's probably never going to get, well, it isn't for RHEL 7 going to get rebuilt. So we've got a little bit of
I know IBM has done a whole bunch of iFunk work around Power 9 enablement.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether, there was refactoring there with regards to glibc iFunk that could improve the situation.
No, it won't.
Does this
No,
change?
it won't. Because atomics are like,
compiled.
it's like adds and subtracts in your code. You can't have an iFunk for that.
Right, but here's where you could, here's a question. So whether it's solved through an iFunk or something else, okay? There's the issue of atomics. Put that to one side for a second. There's the issue of locking, right? I'm very interested in the threading primitives having support for using LSE for the underlying lock instruction. Is that something that you have a plan for?
I think that's in pthreads in glibc, if I'm understanding correctly.
If pthreads is using atomics, the atomic extensions, it's like the atomic extensions are like using adds and subtracts in your code.
Right.
I can't iFunk that. I'd be busy. We'd be busy checking whether this is whether the microarchitecture has LSE or not, rather than doing any locking or rather than doing any synchronization.
So one idea I did have.
So it's like, so you'd be checking if architecture, if I have LSE.
I realize you have a branch every time or something.
You have a branch every time and just kill the performance.
Yeah.
Well, there's really no point doing it at that level.
Can you do a? Can you not at load time? Can you not have like a bunch of no ops you insert or some?
Well, what I was thinking.
It's all more work. It's all more startup time. Instead, why don't we just have another glibc build for LSE?
Well, yeah.
And at install time, decide to use that instead of.
Oh, so
And
the
then
model.
and then all the other applications that use locks and would like to use atomics to be fast.
There is no problem with respect to interoperation between the LSE instructions and the ARM-v8 instructions. They will work.
So
There
the
is
user
no
model.
issue.
User model is like on x86 when you had glibc, i386, and i686. That would be the way you would sell it. You'd say it's no different.
Then it's no different from that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So so you do it at load time. We've already got support for this with hardware caps.
Yeah.
No, do it at.
No. He's saying you install. He's saying you build two different ones, and you then install the one for 8.1 on.
No.
Yes.
That's why we're talking some traffic.
So
Yeah.
why not let it pick the right one using hardware caps at load time?
I can't. It's glibc.
That's the problem. It does the
It's
HW caps.
the dynamic linker itself that needs to decide which one to load itself.
Yes.
No, won't work that easy.
then you need a wrapper. You need another LD.
You need another wrapper that decides which one to get.
Sounds
And
horrible.
It's horrible.
It all sounds horrible.
It is
See,
horrible.
so start with an easy one.
All right, you could do the runtime. You could do the load time fix-up approach. You have a load, you have a cost, right?
Yeah.
You could do it.
Sure.
But it would mean that if you had that, you would need to, the compiler would need to emit all of the V8 instructions in a block
Yep.
that do not change. And then you have to go understand that and make the right thing. Valid, change that load store loop into a CAS instruction.
Yep.
And then pad it out with knobs. And then it has to do a whole load of validation. And getting that right is going to be much harder than
I
just
agree with
doing
you.
this.
I do agree.
Build two flavors
It's
and
just
stuff, right?
just build two flavors, choose the right
It'll
one.
work.
Hmm?
I said it's simple and it will work.
Keep it simple, yeah. Don't
very
add complexity.
Then you throw away biocompatibility on the disk.
Yes.
That's the problem.
And the problem you do is you don't just throw away binary compatibility on the disk. That's not even the issue. You throw away binary compatibility at the container level.
Whatever images you're shipping.
Whatever image you're shipping. So actually, that's probably a given the roadmaps people have today for hardware. I've got a lot of 8.0 stuff hitting the market now, and so this is a 10-year story to do it that way.
Yeah.
So the kernel already has support for, runtime patching of various bits and pieces like this,
PDSL.
removing SMP and
No, but that's at kernel init time, and you do it
Yeah,
once
so
for
once
at boot time, and you're done with it.
Sure.
This will be done for every single process that runs
Yeah.
on the system.
it'll hurt.
It will hurt. Validating that bit of code will be hard.
This is why I was thinking of just doing it for example, for lock primitives. So if I'm already going to call a function, right? You can just call a different function.
Yeah, but that's a level of restructuring for ARM64 in generic glibc. I don't know what that is.
One terrible idea would do install time patching.
Yeah, the patching, the whole patching thing is what I'm worried about.
The problem with install time patching is if you've got a VM or something like that that migrates.
Yeah, it's the same problem.
Yeah.
If you're doing install time patching, if you can make that work, you can do install time replacement.
I think we're stuck on. I think from an OS point of view, we're stuck supporting 8.0 for forever.
So what does LSE give?
It's just essentially slightly more elegant atomic operations.
Well, no, let's be more precise. If you've got a machine with a lot of cores, if you do it traditionally, you do a load store. So you load, you increment, you store it back, right? And so if you've got a cache line, then the cache line is going to bounce around amongst a lot of different cores potentially, depending on how you implement it. You could be a bit more clever. But what you do with LSE is you say, I have a magic way in my hardware to add 1 to this number at the memory controller, and I don't care, I don't have to load it 24, 48 times, however many times. It happens once magically in my last level cache or in my memory controller or something. So if you've got a lot of cores, and we seem to be getting more and more of them, it makes a lot of sense to have LSE. So it's a useful feature.
It's incredibly useful. That's why I want to think of a way of
But
getting
I've told people from a RHEL perspective, I've told them that you can count on, from RHEL 7, you can count on never getting a good LSE story for that reason.
What's the problem with containers exactly? The glibc inside has to use the same as the glibc outside, otherwise all goes wrong.
No, the problem with that is you've built your container.
It's already running.
What did you build it for?
And
You built it for 8.0 because you want to run
Maybe
everything.
it's just got old stuff and it'll be forever before it gets
Yeah.
updated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
rely on using the new stuff in any container or any image you ever build. And of course, the containers are exactly the places where you're going to win on the big, the big boxes people are going to be running clouds on.
And I've got a couple of big vendors who are going with 8.0 just for timing.
Yeah.
And they'll get very unhappy if I say, oh yeah, well,
That's
like the whole
understood.
Yeah.
That's so
It's unfortunate.
if this is any other library, use something clever with
You can still do something clever.
caps, and so load it from a different directory like we do on other platforms.
Well, exactly. So,
But I don't know how
in
to
that
do that
case,
with
is it-
GLibC. That's the problem.
so we need Shen for GLibC to reload itself. How can that be?
Please discuss that on the GLC.
Is this seriously though? I mean, we can't solve this problem here, but I think the takeaway is that we should probably raise it.
Yeah.
For example, in leg, I can raise it and say, this is something that needs resourcing if we care about this, right?
Should it not go to tool chain?
But why are
Well-
containers any harder to update than the rest of the system? I mean, if you just go, it's sending you in the new version, or whatever we do, right? So there's a new version that has this new feature, and you can use that in your containers, same as you can use that in your system whenever you get around to upgrading.
So the problem is, Wookie, if you use the new atomics, that doesn't work on older systems, and the mechanism.
So now you can't use your container in both places.
Yeah.
That's the
Right,
problem.
and you void that feature, yeah.
Okay, so if we put it in, if we end up putting it in the distro, if we put both copies in the distro, and maybe with HW caps getting, what happens if you have a VM image that migrates? Because you could have a VM image that was
your
running
host.
on,
Yep, your host.
and then your host as well, so it doesn't solve that problem.
Well, again,
That's
no,
pushing the
you,
edges.
you, the kernel and the
But
VM.
people want to do it.
Oh
Those
yeah, no,
people
but you'd fall over in the kernel first.
No, what you would do in the
Yeah.
case of, what you would do is, it's reasonable in the case of virtualization to say you're going to pick the minimum architecture version
There's
that
no
you
other
support
option.
that's at time of day zero. So you could say this will only ever run on an 8.0
Yeah.
plus or an 8.1 plus, so it's reasonable to do that.
Yeah, so you set the hardware capabilities at the VM config
Yes.
level,
Yes.
and you say, right, I want to run it at 8.1,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and if there's an 8.0 host in that cluster, you just can't migrate to it.
Now we don't today. What we do today is we do host CPU pass through, and we know that that needs to be fixed. So that
No,
would give another
but,
reason to
but,
fix
but
it.
I mean, like, the orchestration platform
Yeah.
for the VM, whether it be like Overt or OpenStack or whatever, has the ability to deal with that.
But you would, well, yes, you would. I'm just saying for the implementation today, you would need to change it because you need to disable the 8.1 features for the VM,
Yes.
which is totally doable. We have the option to do
Sure.
that. So,
Yeah, so I mean, I don't, and I know from at least, like on Power 64 Big Endian, I think, say, Fedora ships 4 different copies of glibc.
Yeah.
One for, I think it's Power 4 or 5, one for Power 6, one for Power 7, one for Power 8. And I don't know how it detects it at load time, but presumably
It must be doing it, yeah.
Yeah, it is doing it, so presumably...
Okay, so if it is doing it, that's some hierarchy.
Yeah, and so glibc certainly has that functionality there, because I know there was a thread on the Fedora devel list, because basically the glibc maintainers didn't want to continue having to build and ship 4 copies of glibc.
so we said, congratulations, you only have to ship 2 for ARM. That's
We'll
half
look
as
good.
many. So you get better, right?
Until the next extensions.
Yeah. Shush. Don't spoil it.
So,
No, the next, I mean, SV is probably okay, because
Yeah.
you can iFunc that. See,
Yeah.
SV is at a granularity.
yeah, we've
Okay,
done
yeah.
the work on that.
Just have to tell the ARM chip designers not to design any hardware functionality that can't be iFunked.
Yeah,
Well,
please.
if you're going to do it, make sure it's all,
No,
architected in early.
LSE is special.
LSE special. LSE, I think what the polite public summary version for video purposes is that we actually all thought going into ARM v8 that we'd get away with the way v8.0 does it. And
Yeah.
it just so happens that when you add a lot of cores and do the numbers,
It doesn't work.
and compare and swap instruction,
Yeah.
sadly, because we had killed swap,
Yeah.
sadly, it turns out that it was premature. So, we'll always have lessons we learn. Okay, so the takeaway there is, I can go and get LEG to endorse working on this, right? From a resources point of view. But what's the action then? Are we going to have the ARM toolchain?
I think the action is basically just examined to see what the state of
Are we absolutely certain that Runtime Linker does not do hardware caps for the Lindsay load?
I'm
In
not
fact,
100% sure,
I
so I
would
can.
put money on
Yeah.
the fact it does already. Because
Well, I would have thought it would.
from 2 or 3 years ago, the last time I
Yeah.
was digging in the guts there, I've headbutted walls since, so I've forgotten the details.
This is
I don't
working on
want to
purpose,
know that.
isn't that how they're doing it?
Just
So the
that's,
question
that's,
is the
that's an
power.
action. It's an action to go find out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Someone written that down.
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah,
Your action.
I'll take a look.
Yeah, your idea, your action.
Yeah. No, no, it's
I was
good.
just
It's
wondering
very
if
good.
anyone had an amazing way of solving
Can
this.
we help? Can we make sure we explain to the vendors as well that this is not something that, because the problem I often get in meetings with people is they say, well, 8.1 has all this stuff, so it's all solved, and you know,
We all go through.
It is from a hardware. It is from a hardware point of view.
Well,
and then they
it's-
say hardware's hard, software's easy, so why is it our fault?
it's hard to explain to them that this is actually
Yeah.
not solved, and it will remain broken for at least several years.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Legacy.
Yeah, I know, I just typed the wrong thing. I know, yeah, I was just...
This has been fixing Spots since Spark days. You know, not even the Power 4, Power 5, whatever. You know, back in the old days, you know, we were shipping different versions of glibc for Spark, Ultra Spark, whatever, and picking away what loads
Do you
of
think
You must have been there
Intel?
already.
Do you think when Intel came up with the scalable processor stuff, that they considered that Spark means scalable processor architecture, and they might have some kind of legal claim to that term?
They probably wouldn't care.
That's true.
So, anyway, so
I'll have a look.
right.
Yeah.
Steve will solve that one. What's next?
Thank you.
Any other ARM extent? So SVE, we were aware that there was an issue with the growth in the main issue for supporting it on existing builds is the stack frame size expansion, and we did some diligence on that, so we think we can sort of shoehorn it back into RHEL at some point.
What's the extra cost on context switches then?
There's a signal handler stack growth issue, I
Yeah.
think is what it is. But I know enough of the details to be dangerous on that and go and poke people who actually did the diligence on it. So I think that one's okay. Although SVE stuff I think is far enough out that we don't have to worry about it today. The only detail on SVE that I care about is as and when the ELF capabilities are added or attributes are added, we need to make sure that we handle that. But that's going to be done at the toolchain level, at the glibc level.
Sorry, what's this ELF attribution?
There's some metadata on SVE that's going to go into ELF, I think.
I haven't seen anything yet on that. So.
Well, it was always supposed to, so I would assume someone is going to post something at some point too. Because what you have to do is, this was something I talked to people about a few years ago in SVE definition time, was adding, you need in a binary to say,
That you depend on it.
well, number one, you need to say that you need SVE, but number two, you need to say the preferred vector width for this binary and the one that you tested it with. And then a possible maximum size.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Now, I brought all this up, so someone somewhere inside ARM knows that this came up, but I'm pretty sure someone was looking at adding this stuff to ELF. So whoever wants to take that one away.
I've got one already. I'm
You're going to be looking in already.
good. Nah.
I can follow up with the architecture
I
group on
can
that.
pass it back.
Do you want to pass it back?
I can pass it back to the team that looks after SVE.
You can have them ping me. I've already, Nigel and co know that.
I know the proposal. I don't know where it's gone.
Okay. But you know what I mean. I mean,
I know what you're talking about.
okay. That's going to matter for a cross distro. The thing I was always concerned about was VM migration with SVE from one vector width to another. We did discuss it at length. We worked out some of the options.
Clamp it, can't you, with a
Yeah.
register change, so it's
Yeah.
not as bad as it sounds.
Yeah. But you want to know ahead of time
Where the-
what your binary is expecting and what the minimum and maximum, what the minimum vector width you tested with was, and the maximum one you tested with. Those are important pieces of data because people won't get it right.
I haven't yet, well, that's details.
We could talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Anything else on
details.
SVE, since we touched on it? I just brought it up. Anything else on SVE? Don't think so, right?
Or are there any other binary compatibility things coming down the pipe?
Things we could talk about here.
Yes.
So-
Does ELF format changes actually matter for kind of from a distro point of view? Isn't it just updated stuff, or is there?
No, it'll be a load time issue.
compatibilities?
It'll be a compatibility issue.
Yeah, it'll come down to load time, and you will need to
But
validate.
it will go into the dynamic record.
Yeah.
Yes,
Once
we know where
once
it's
the
going.
support- Once the support goes in, then you're okay.
Right, I mean, we have to have new and old support
At
basically
this point of
forever.
time, that work hasn't gone into the newtons.
Has
As far as I
anybody-
know.
Has anybody brought up manifest info for containers for OCI, whether they express right now the LSE requirements on a container?
They probably don't.
I know the answer is no. I'm just seeding it in your mind so you can think, gee, I've already started writing down, because everybody says the word gee, don't they? But you think to yourself, oh gosh golly, I'm already taking actions. I can take this one too.
So LSE, you mean? But
Yeah.
should that matter?
Yeah. Oh yeah, because that's an architecture capability. In fact, that should be
But the thing is,
minimum architecture that this
What do you-
container requires.
oh yeah, but
Yes. So when we were talking
Yeah.
with Matt about this,
yeah.
I was going to bring up that, yes. The,
What you
wow.
what you have in OCI today is you define an ARM architecture,
Yeah.
and you define ARM 64. You don't define revisions of it.
Because I thought we.
I thought we passed that.
Yeah.
I don't think you do.
My understanding was we said like 8.0, and then basically we assumed it was like a normal Linux distribution. So if somebody had a binary on, the onus is on that binary to either work with HW caps or whatever or not.
Okay, so you want
So
you
that
want to
wouldn't
pin
be
it to
needed.
always 8.0.
That would probably be the cleanest way of doing it in my mind, because we don't. We already have the mechanism to do this anyway in Linux, so why add another mechanism? Was the thinking.
Exactly. We get proper backwards compatibility that way.
I agree. I like things to be done with intention, so that's
Yeah.
good. That's okay.
We did think about it in the office. We decided to go as simple as possible.
Okay, all right.
if nothing else, going into too much detail only confuses people actually.
Okay, Dad, I noticed that there was no big Indian OCI container type for ARM 64.
Good.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy. I'm happy with that. I'm just saying it's not possible, which is great. I like that.
Yeah. Should stop people doing it.
Can we move on to something else?
Okay. We don't have to talk about VHE. I think that's another extension we don't have to touch on. Is there any other extension that we care about right now?
Again, I think the ones I'm familiar with are mainly for user space are HW capped anyway.
Mhm.
So, in famous last words, I think we're okay.
Any more? What am I thinking of? Prefix. What am I thinking? The triplet issues, any of that kind of stuff? Because we always love that one.
I think we dealt with that last time even,
Okay.
and with the discussion mailing list. Did we ever actually, Wookie, the ALP32 stuff, is that all actually nailed down and people have stopped complaining?
There was just this pending point from the SUSE people saying it caused an issue with RPM builds, and I admit to not looking into exactly what the problem was. So I don't know. So they sort of muttered a bit, but no, nobody else has had any objections. So that's sort of hanging in the air as I can't believe we can't build things because.
Is anybody doing ILP32 in the Red Hat, in the RPM world at the moment?
Well, really, I mean, there was that OBS build, but I'm not sure whether they are maintaining it.
No.
I think it was just a one-off thing to prove that they could do stuff with OBS relatively painlessly, which is true.
It's a volunteer. Yeah, they do. Someone does build still as a voluntary. Isn't this nice?
Andreas Schwab is the guy.
That's right, Mr. Schwab.
So I should catch up with him about that thing. I was waiting until I actually had an image that booted at all, which I've basically just about done. So at this point, go back and see whether there's
I'd like
any issues we need to worry about.
I'd like ILP32 to go away.
I think that goes
Yeah, well, I
both
think quite a lot of people will take that point of view.
So, but I have an answer I give to people whenever they ask about ILP32. I say, we'll ship and support ILP32 right after we ship and support X32.
Quite.
Then they go away and look up what X32 is, and then they realise that this whole mistake has been done before, and then that's usually when that usually gives you enough time to put their email in the blacklist.
Well, I don't think anyone's made any x86 CPUs that don't run i386 yet. So the issue is if people start making hardware that only does that, then it might have to become a thing.
Well, they start in real mode, so I don't think that's happened.
So far it's only Cavium.
I don't.
So if everyone else decides that was too shitty, they don't want all that aggravation.
I'm told it's not just Cavium who want it, there are other members interested as well. They're still long.
They are. Binary
In my
translation
opinion.
is the future for them. I've got some things on virtualization, but what else do other people have?
To be honest, not much at the moment. Things are basically working for us. There's nothing that we've got any concerns over right now beyond not doing ILP32.
I've got two then. You just gave me a second. You've got to stop saying things. I'm going to touch on, this is not really, this is just opinions. It's not really inter-distro compatibility, but it's worth mentioning. I'm going to touch on page size first. So Peter and I had a conversation, and Peter unfortunately makes a number of very good points in life, and it's frustrating sometimes because he's often right. And that's on video.
I make a point of not opening my mouth if I think I'm going to be wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
It's generally a good plan, yes.
It's even on video that I think he's sometimes right. So, no, he's often right. So the problem we have is that 4K tends to work quite nicely for embedded systems, for Raspberry Pis and the like.
The problem with 64K on devices like the Raspberry Pi is CMA.
Correct.
Because you end up with a minimum CMA allocation of half a gig, which, when you've only got a gig, or in the case of like some of the Pine 64 and those style devices, where in some cases you actually only have half a gig.
Yeah.
The kernel goes half a gig to CMA and just shits itself.
Yeah. So the reason I say it is there's a difference between things that could be cleaned up, given enough time. That could be fixed. That's not an intrinsic, uncorrectable issue. It's just.
Are you saying that correcting CMA is not uncorrectable? Because I'm going to have to object to that right now, just because the problem is that the fundamental limitations right now are how the kernel manages the page blocks for CMA, and I think trying to get around that would be significant reworking to be able to work with a larger page size. But
it can be done, though, is the point. I'm not saying it will be. It could be.
It's technically possible.
It's not a hardware feasible. No.
It's not a natural consequence of 64K or versus 4K that this would be a problem. It just is a problem.
Yes.
Is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So that being the case, having 4K in Fedora and so on, it makes a lot of sense. The reason I brought it up is we're keeping 64K in RHEL. The reason we're keeping 64K, and I encourage other distros to do enterprise builds. I don't know if anyone is here from another distro. Oh, Canonical, right? Yeah, okay. So the current page table format that ARM has does not allow for greater than 48 bits of virtual address space or physical address space if you are on a 4K page size. If you want to go to the 52-bit option, which people will want to do
One day.
in the not too distant future,
I'm just trolling.
yeah, for NVMe, for other stuff, right? For C6, for other cool things we're building, 52-bit turns out to be, I think, pretty important. I know from a RHEL and CentOS point of view, we're in good shape. I think the other distros would be well placed to think about the 64K issue.
I mean, ultimately, as long as it's built for the newer version of inutils, because we initially in Fedora had 64K pages turned on.
Yeah.
From a user space point of view, as long as you built with the fixed version of BinUtil.
You could switch.
Which was
Yeah.
like a couple of years old.
Yeah, you could switch.
You can switch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a kernel compile time option.
Yeah.
But ultimately, other than that, when we went from 64K pages back to 4K pages so that we could support qubit embedded nonsense devices, because funnily enough, people don't want to spend thousands of dollars on a system just to have a play around with the architecture. We saw no side effects from a pure user space.
I agree with Peter. I mean,
however, has anyone actually done the work? I know the SUSE guys were bitten by this, fixing ButterFS so it doesn't shoot itself when you change page size.
To my knowledge, that's still in progress. Brian, is it?
well, we don't have
Well,
problem.
Yeah, you can do it file systems.
We don't have that problem. If we did have that problem, then we would have that problem.
Well, I mean, so one thing I did notice is you had to reformat the swap files.
Yeah, anything that exposes your. Yeah, Peter, I was about to make it, and I heard you saying there are a number of places where the fundamental page size gets exposed.
So the other question I had was, we internally use 64-bit kernels with 32-bit user land. Has anybody tried running 64K page size kernels with 32-bit kernels? I know you.
My understanding is that doesn't work. I can't remember why.
It didn't used to.
No, it does now.
That was
That was the reason that
was only
Peter
for
refers to.
ARC32, because I know that on ARC64.
No. You could run an ARC32 container on a 64-bit.
I've not tried it.
No, but okay, we should go and test what is true at this moment. But it has been done, and precisely because
I do that all the time. My VMs are essentially running a 64-bit kernel with 32-bit user land.
Yes.
However, I'm running an Ubuntu kernel, which I believe is 4K. Right. So,
but Peter's point is the BinUtils was fixed, so 32-bit builds are now done. The 32-bit distro is now being built with 64K alignment.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
so
fine.
for that reason,
unless you want to run a really old
Correct.
container or
Yes.
old
Correct.
sugar
So we are okay.
whatever.
Correct.
So it's a solved problem. So I wasn't sure if the BinUtils fix was for
Correct.
A64 or A32.
it intentionally fixes that case that you're running a
That's
binary.
fine.
Yeah, that was
That's fine.
now that I
That's
think
fine.
back, that was my understanding.
That was the reason it was
You
done.
will still be bitten if you're running old binaries.
Well,
But there's not much we can do about
Okay.
that.
the reason.
The multi-arch 32 and 64 works with a 64-bit kernel, 64K page kernel, which I don't think anyone's actually tried. It should work. We believe that should work, right? But we should
There's
check.
no reason why that shouldn't work. If BinUtils has been fixed, that should also work.
And it has. So yes.
Okay,
So-
so that's fine.
So our plan, so given the heritage of Fedora and RHEL and so on, RHEL has lots of config differences from Fedora anyway. So the path that we'll follow is in RHEL and CENT, we'll stick with 64K. In Fedora, it makes sense for Fedora to target.
My understanding is the CENT guys are going to do a 4K optional kernel.
Correct.
Because they want to support
Correct.
small boards.
Correct. Yeah, we talked about it, and we
But it won't be the default kernel.
Correct.
And I think the way they'll deal with that is they'll do pre-canned images designed for those devices,
That was the discussion.
which has the 4K kernel installed.
Okay.
that was the discussion.
But I'm not sure the technical details of how they're going to do that. But
I talked with Jim about it.
yeah,
and-
so
and-
I've
yeah.
spoken with Jim about it as well, but ultimately how they want to implement the exact details of that is their problem, because I've got more than enough of my own
No,
problems.
the only stipulation I placed on him in a nice way was, let's make sure the default install in CENT is 64K, because what I don't like is people who are sneaky. If you give the vendors an inch,
Yeah.
they'll go round your back and say, well, we've got this thing working in CENT, so we're fine.
So the
I
only
don't let that
other
happen.
the only other spot I can see that as an issue from an enterprise point of view is you get a lot of places that want to do essentially VMs that are small.
Yes.
So like DigitalOcean style, I want a machine with half a gig and like 2 gig and what have you.
That's the
and
problem.
in that case, pretty much the smallest VM you can really do on ARM64 is 2 gig.
Yep.
You could do a gig, but you'll only get half a gig of usable space.
That's right, because of
So you'll have to have a small kernel for those.
Well, if those companies want to do that sort of thing, sure. I don't see that happening in the enterprise space, but
Sure.
like, I work for Red Hat, but I do my best to ignore that enterprise stuff as much as humanly possible. Because, I mean, ultimately that just ends up in project manager meetings constantly and no one gets any real work done. Just look at JCM.
Yeah. I spend my life in those meetings, so he doesn't.
Exactly.
Have to, right? So that's fine.
So I can
But we
see
do care.
if
just
we
wrap
get to the
that-
point in Debian where we have to care about it, we'll probably go the other way. Our default is going to be 4K. We may have a 64K kernel at the point where people care. I've never seen or heard anyone depending on it or demanding it yet.
But you will. And
We will do at some
Yeah.
point. We already have options, on A32 for a standard kernel, multi-platform or an LPAE. We'll end up doing the same thing for 64K
Good.
kernel if we need it.
good, and that's fine.
Yeah.
As long I'm just calling it out because it's
Sure,
good to
absolutely,
know.
yes. Something I've heard, we've had a brief discussion about it in the past. We just haven't got to the point where
And we should just try and check it works in case there's anything important we have to fix, like some other cock
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, there might be some applications that have doing some compile time checking that, oh, I'm on a 64K page size, I embed this in my
I haven't
binary
run
and
into
use
that
it
yet
everywhere.
in the
Yeah.
Fedora.
Have you
done
pulled
anything
it
with
out?
the sanitizers turned on?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember.
What's
But
this?
that may be one thing, the address sanitizers and the thread sanitizers. That's the one thing I'd want to check
Okay.
for
Yeah.
page size and for the virtual address.
You mean KSLR, that kind of stuff? Or?
Not KSLR, ASLR, the user space.
Oh, the user space.
No, not KSLR, sorry, address sanitizer.
ASAN.
ASAN,
The
TSAN.
SAN.
SAN, ASAN,
I think it's okay. It's worth.
ASAN works in 64.
It's
KSAN does, yes, we know that.
And
Yeah.
52-bit.
it's just worth checking out.
So, really ignorant question around this. How is it possible, or how hard would it be to make 64 versus 4K page sizes a
Boot time option.
boot time
It's
option?
not doable.
You should know.
I mean, no. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Because I brought it up with Catalan a while back because I like to cause him stress, right? It's there to Laura's point about CMA, right?
Yeah.
There's no fundamental reason you couldn't do it. Just no architecture has ever done it. So ARM would be the first one. You'd have to refactor so much stuff that
Yes, that's a lot of work.
So we won't get it done.
The problem's essentially derived constants. So
pgtable.h is everything comes from macros that are
and
the
all the
build time.
drivers,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
for the patches I'm working on for 52-bit, what we do is we choose a boot time to do 48 to 52.
And you collapse it down like you do with 5 or 4 level on Intel.
Well, I mean, at boot time it goes, okay, yeah.
No, you collapse the levels.
Oh, yeah.
Like you do on Intel with 5 level or 4 level.
Basically just uses a bit more in one of the levels.
Right.
But it retains the number of levels, which is a bit weird on but basically...
Oh, you're not wrapping, you're actually keeping the same 3
number of
levels, but you're fiddling the number of bits in the
yeah,
TCR.
Exactly, yeah. So the PGD count is different. But so VA bits is a constant. Now just changing that one, which is a relatively innocuous one.
Yep.
Is it full rebuild?
Well, there's a lot of patches to do that. Page size.
No. But
it's
Peter's
hard.
point,
Yeah.
that what we need to separate always is what is technically achievable
Oh, yeah.
versus what is practical. It's not practical today. Given enough pressure, it could result. Well,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about that level of architecture.
But there's no reason.
And hence,
Yeah.
I prefaced that this may be an ignorant question. So,
No, it's a reasonable question, and it's just again how the whole thing's been built.
Yeah.
It's not practical, but it could be done one day with enough, motivation.
It
It's
is a
not
natural thing.
completely unprecedented, but I think it was PVC or something that had
Spark
something.
didn't Spark do something weird?
I was looking at, I know I did the research on this before, and there was some sort of switch between it, but the problem is that it wasn't a full switch between at the page size. I think it was mostly dropping a level from the upper levels.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be quite fundamental, but.
I think I have a weird feeling one of the Sparks did something odd.
Spark, I forget which one. Spark or PowerPC, one of those.
Yeah, one of those two. One of those two.
So the thing that stopped me is I was looking at it because I thought, oh, I'll just quickly do this. The problem
Did
is,
you really think about that? Did you really think about that?
I
Because
took
you
a look
need to
at
drink
it and I
more, my
thought-
friend.
Well, I probably was drinking, which probably why I took a look. But the problem,
That was the Friday afternoon thing after the pub.
yeah. So the problem is you got
He fixed the contingent stuff. He got that. He got THP working, and then for the next 10 minutes, he decided.
just quick. The problem that it's a thought experiment I was going for the code is you've got the page shift and then you've got the page size.
Yeah.
The problem is you've got so many derived constants from
Yeah.
that, and then what you've got is you've got if defery for conditional compilation based upon those
Yeah.
constants.
Oh yeah.
And so it quickly becomes quite
Touching
tricky.
everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's
even-
not impossible, it's just a lot of work.
Even if you fix it up, then I think you also have the issue about your initial setup as well, just in terms of trying to set up the initial bootstrapping that as well. Then you have problems about how to actually do that in a successful way. So.
Or get it booted enough so it can read the kernel command lines to work out what
Yes.
to set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of. Anyway, so the idea of a runtime switch is a one-day thing, maybe.
Pie in the sky.
Well, you know, I'll be honest with how I've told Arm over quite a period of time how I see it going. I think ultimately what will happen is there'll probably be some new requirement for a new page table format on the 4K granular size, and we'll all end up in a world like LA57, and we'll end up with another 4 level because people who have 4K dependencies will not go away. So I'd love the world to go 64K. I could see it going quite the other way, but we'll see what happens. So you have a path for 52. That's great. We're all tracking that one. The other one, that's just a very light and non-contentious topic, is ACPI, which
What's the problem?
that's no problem. I love it. It's great. I just
We need DT table, which will contain the device tree block.
In RHEL, this is a RHEL comment. People can take or leave. In RHEL, we have added a patch which will taint the kernel and cause it to be cause your system to be
Unless you use
non-supported
it via OCPI.
if your platform, your server platform, provides a device tree. Even if it's not used.
Oh, that's harsh.
Yes. Yes. If your system even contains a device tree, you won't be able to get, because I'm trying to kill the device tree on servers.
Fine, whatever.
So I'm calling it
that's
out.
basically the.
I'm calling it out. In
So
a
going back to the last cross-distro conversation, I seem to remember you were going to send a patch to the whatever kernel list to prefer ACPI over device
That's
tree.
been sent.
And has that been
Al
sent?
sent that, yeah.
Yeah, haven't sent it.
Al sent it.
Yeah. Oh, Al sent it.
Al sent it.
And has it been accepted?
I don't think it has. I think he's raised it a couple of times now. So we're pro. So two things on that. So one, we want ACPI to always be the preferred default.
Sure.
Okay. We're also doing two things at the commercial level. We're going to taint, which doesn't mean we won't boot. You'll boot the system. You'll get a nasty warning during boot that says your platform contains device tree.
Yeah, and they said forevermore we crash dumps and all that, yeah.
Yeah, and it will be, when someone runs the cert suite, which is our commercial cert program, it will fail the cert if the platform has a device tree. And the reason is I'm trying to remove it. Now the other thing we've done is in VMs, the reason I'm bringing up from a cross-distro point of view, in VMs, our default vert tools on RHEL will no longer provide a device tree to VMs either.
Sure. Kind of makes sense.
So I would like us to all get religion at the distro levels about moving to the standards that we have. And if people want to support device tree, that's fine, but I would like it if, especially with VMs, when I'm booting other distros in a VM, they really ought to be able to boot with ACPI.
Sure.
It's just a kernel issue, really, isn't it? It's
Just
it's
kernel,
multi-kernel, yeah. So,
But I've seen some cases still where there's still some distros that you boot, people try to boot them in a VM and on RHEL, and they say, oh, I couldn't boot that distro, it doesn't work.
is it old kernel or is it other stuff in addition?
It's old kernels, it's, you know, I'm sure it'll fix over time.
Yeah, sure.
But I'd like us to just, I would like the world to go that way. I know it's going to take some time, but I think we're very close, so.
Yeah.
How does this work for GPUs? So, you know, to get Mali to work, we have to add DTB information about where the memory is because it's not in there. Presumably, we just have to do the same thing in some ACPO tables.
Platform,
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone is. They started with DTB and declared it done. So, you know,
It's
how
the
do you
usual.
do
It's the usual way, yeah. So I may end up having to walk back the taint thing, but I'm trying to be an asshole with it because I'm trying to I'm trying to get the world to go to what we said we would do all those years. So it's sort of, you know, I'm just trying to put my usual encouragement there for us to get behind that. Now, on a lighter note, the work that Peter's been talking about and Alex and co have been working on for a U-boot to have EFI support.
Rob Clark.
Well, Rob Clark.
I mean, I've not been doing any of that coding. I've just been giving him lists of things that I want.
But I really like that as a path, and I've got no concerns on embedded systems. Again, I'm an ACPI fanboy on servers. I think elsewhere, this is a great option, is to have the EFI support in U-boot.
Well, I mean, from my point of view, it makes my life a lot saner because you're starting to get a lot of, I mean, the ARM64 stuff in U-boot with ARM-trusted firmware and things like that is driving me insane. But a lot of the boards now are coming with, like, you know, NAND flash or SPI or whatever you want to call it, and putting it on there. So if we can turn around and say to the vendors we're engaging with, put flash on there, put at least this version of U-boot on there. We have a single install path. I think one of the Debian, I think he's doing it for Debian, but I don't know exactly, actually submitted a whole bunch of patches to support all the network stuff, so we can even do like iPixie installs, and for the next release we'll be able to do iPixie installs.
I want to call out one thing on iPixie as well, if I may. There's just so people know it, and I'm trying to draw attention to this. iPixie currently does not support compressed kernel images on AR64. It doesn't do that. So it's highly unuseful because I've been playing with Packet, right? Sure. Now they have iPixie, which is actually a very nice feature. But people in the industry constantly tell me, "Oh, X feature works. It's done, no problem. You can use iPixie." That's great. Have you actually tried it with a distro?
But my point is that as of yesterday, Rob had the
SCT.
Yeah, so like the full UEFI shell and the STC test suite running.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think the only thing remaining around that is fat write support, because at the moment, every time a new test is written out, it just truncates it. But other than that, it's looking really good. And from my point of view, it's just for ARM64, it's a single install path, a single everything.
It's safe.
I love it.
We still have fanboys who detest UEFI because of what everything to be U-boot forever.
So we finally get to give them the answer because
you can have a U-boot.
It's not piano chord, right? The thing is, they always in their head they equate the two. It's like it's just a spec.
Yes.
I like U-boot. It's nice. If it did EFI all along, I wouldn't have had an issue with it. Oh, look, it does. That's fine. Great.
Well, and I mean, like if you go,
we're not going to get down to variable storage yet, are we? I mean,
they'll need to.
It's being looked at.
Okay.
So there were some sample patches that do it, but don't actually. There's no write backing yet.
Do they have runtime calls like RTC and so on, or is it's all live?
So there's
you
not.
can't do that surely on U-boot.
Why not?
So there is one or two runtime services. I know it supports the reboot service.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't support RTC yet, but there has been discussion on how to do it.
Yeah.
And I know there is support in there for leaving like a little bit
resident to support. Okay.
To your point,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. If you had a long code path you had to call, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
For a short, there are
Small
ways
things,
to do it.
yeah.
For a short stub, you may have code duplication, I guess, versus core U-boot, but it's, yeah, okay, I guess. But variable storage you can do with, presumably, I think today it's probably just an in-memory buffer. They just map it and you can write things to it, but it gets thrown away at reset or something like that.
Yeah, so
It isn't all that useful. It's a start.
It's a start.
yeah.
Just to color a little bit, I think a lot of people hate UAT because they connect it to closed source BIOS implementation. UAT fixes this.
Yes.
The other thing that people might hate is grub, but grub is not going away any more than system D is going away.
Boo! Kill Grub!
Why? I don't put on that. Don't stay.
So, is there anything else from a cross-distro point of view that we have to talk about?
Bring back Lilo.
I was going to say, looking
Port
at the-
Lilo to AR64?
You know,
That's your new job,
people
right?
are doing Syslinux port.
Yeah. Yes, I'm
Live
aware,
voice.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
I was going to go back to 70.
Oh,
Yeah.
footnote there. We need to get, yeah, okay, we should follow up people who do Tiano Core. I've got this mental to do somewhere on my stupidly long list.
Go on.
Right now, I've seen people take the Pixie boot instructions for an x86 RHEL and apply those to an ARM64 machine. So they will take the Pixie Linux.0 payload and give that as their file. We will load that as an EFI binary, and then we will stop and there'll be no output. And so what we probably need, what I've got us to do is to go and get Tiano Core cleaned up to at least say, hi, you tried loading an x64 binary, this was not a good idea.
Incompatible binary.
You know, you're an idiot, please read the manual. But it turns out a lot of people don't read the manual, and so
this is my support.
yeah, and so the other half of that is we should go and make sure. I know that Canonical asked years ago to get the option type for the architecture cleaned up. It is cleaned up in DHCP. We do give out the correct architecture type. We should have guidance in DHCP documentation to properly match on that and give the right file name.
Sure.
And ideally, we would have some file name that, ideally we'd have some fat binary, now I'm not being, ideally we'd have some way to...
Some way of doing it same.
To give an EFI binary that did both. That would be the ideal. So, what were you going to add? You were going to say
I
something?
was going to say, it's looking like the libc package in Debian has got multiple versions optimised for different architectures, including x86, one for Zen. So I think logic's there, we just have to have a tinker. I'll update when we do.
That's it. That essentially pushes this into a packaging thing.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than being a
Instead of having to
GDC.
do any massive hacking on
Wait, but does
which
it
I
run
really
time
don't
match
want.
then on which way to
I'll
go?
find out.
If we got to install side by side, that doesn't solve the problem.
No, but I just need to play. It's got HWCAT references in the script.
Perfect, yeah.
So
I'll let
play
you
in
figure
and
that out.
update when I've done that.
Is there any other cross-disparate stuff?
I think we're done and we're out of time, maybe, but go on.
You can make things for a
If
list.
you want to steal a couple of minutes, I'm okay with it.
I was
Is
gonna
this
ask
where
a
the BoF
question
is
around
happening?
the
Oh, good.
time to sign this.
Yeah.
So we were talking about extensions in the past. There's the 8.3 pointer signing extension.
Oh, no. Not today. Let's not talk about that one, because that's going to take 20 minutes.
I don't know.
Now, we should, the thing is, we should,
So the thing is, we should have the conversation about it
We should.
because there are instructions in the knob space that will help with security.
yes, I agree.
And I think we should look to see if we can standardize the distros in building that.
Okay.
We pushed that support into GCC.
Yep.
GCC 7. So I'd like to start having the conversation on defaulting to it.
Okay.
in the distros.
So I think,
Mail the list is a good
Sorry,
place to
what
start
was that one
always.
for defaulting in GCC 7?
It's not defaulted in GCC 7. The support is in GCC 7.
Sorry, what was the
pointer
support?
signing.
point assignment.
Okay.
So basically, you can sign your return addresses, and we've got knob instructions. We've got instructions in the knob space that will do it for you. So the binary would run normally on an 8.0 implementation.
Yeah.
But if you had 8.3 hardware, you would get that protection.
So we just need to adjust
the compiler
C flags.
You just need to either adjust the C flags
Or change the defaults
for GCC when you build it.
Yeah, no, because that's something I'm interested in for Fedora, because we've got GC7 since Fedora 26.
Yeah.
And so if we enable that, the next time we do a mass rebuild, we can get that functionality and get it start to get it tested.
We've been talking also with I have, and that will expand out about doing testing of newer architecture stuff using models. So that will be part of that conversation too for Fedora. Would be testing 8.3 and 8.4 and other future stuff.
Definitely. Mail the list.
Yeah, send it out.
Send that out.
And you probably release
Come with us, I'll show you.
Guys,
Good
today,
good
Okay,
conversation.
that's fine. So
I mean,